right, we're going to get started here. We're here to discuss the genealogy cloud. We're going to focus mainly on online storage programs, and hopefully you'll walk away with enough information to make a decision if you're not already using a file hosting service, or maybe you are currently using one and you're not happy, or you want to learn more about your own file hosting service. So again, my usual copyright statement here. Now let's go over some of the topics we'll cover in the next 50 minutes. What is this genealogy cloud everyone is talking about? We'll discuss also how the cloud works. I will be discussing and showing you in real time how the cloud works. I think that's where a lot of confusion is, and people are not using these services because they're not fully understanding them. We'll do an overview of some cloud computing programs and tell you the difference between file hosting services and other programs. We'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of keeping your files up on the cloud. Most of our time will be spent here on file hosting sites for genealogists. We do have to discuss security, privacy, and collaboration issues. That is, if you saw the poll, those are not uncommon questions, and those are some of the issues which prevent people from using these programs. And finally, we'll close out with cloud genealogy or genealogy cloud best practices. So, great. Let's get started. What is this genealogy cloud that everyone is talking about, and why is it called the cloud? I don't know if many of you know why it is actually called the cloud. Came into popular media about 3 years ago. It's been used as a term for many years in the information technology field, and this is how it came about. It all started with flowcharting. When you set up a system at a corporation or for a business, you remember these flowchart templates? I know this seems old-fashioned now. It's all done in PowerPoint, but you would flowchart the process of getting information to the user, and the symbol that was used to designate an off-site server or a server that you actually paid for from another vendor, they use the cloud symbol. That is how the term cloud comes about. But also I want you to visualize what a cloud is. A cloud hovers over you. It hovers, it's outside and away from you. Now we're going to show you how you actually can work. Not many of us can touch clouds. I know that I can't. But with the data cloud, or where you're storing information, you will be touching it and downloading and uploading, etc. But that is how the cloud term got started. And we're basically talking about this. This is how the cloud works. Very simply. You have a choice right now. Do you want to store data locally on your PC or your laptop, your iPad, or mobile phone, or do you want to put it on a remote server? Meaning that it could be halfway around the world. Could be in Northern Virginia where Amazon servers are. It could be in Surprise, Arizona for someone maybe that's running servers out there. And going globally means that, you know, we really don't have many limits. What has made the cloud possible is high-speed internet, which is getting faster and faster every day. Here's a simple visualization of how the cloud works. Let's say this is my desktop computer here in Chicago, and this is what I'm actually running the show on right now, this slideshow. And I upload files, and I upload them to this hosting service called the cloud. I could pick Dropbox, SugarSync, Live Drive. And then what happens is once the files are here, the nice part is I can access them from a laptop. I was in Indianapolis this weekend for Midwestern Roots Conference. I could access these files in Indianapolis. And let's say I go to RootsTech in February with my brand new tablet computer, which I know Santa is going to bring me this year. And so I could then access my files in Salt Lake City, and they're sitting on that server. Also, I travel a lot. If I'm at O'Hare Airport and I'm stuck waiting for a flight, I could access my files and actually open and work on spreadsheets and PDFs from a mobile device. That is the concept of the cloud. You are storing your data offline in another server at another company. Also, what is built in with cloud computing is the ability to sync those files. Not every program has syncing. Dropbox and SugarSync are known for syncing. What does syncing mean? Well, let's say they're here on the cloud, and if I edit a file here on my computer, or maybe on my laptop, let's say my laptop in Indianapolis, it will make sure that the update gets over here on my computer as well. I want to actually show this live, and let me show you how this works. Right down here, you notice that I have Dropbox running right here. I've used about half of my 7 gigabytes of space that I have available. And what you don't see right now is I have a laptop running over here, over on the side, and I'm actually running Dropbox there as well. So I'm going to update a file on my laptop, and I want you to watch on screen and see how it's going to update. And you notice, here it is. It is actually updating, and it was that fast. That was a 3 megabyte file. Now I am working with a fast computer, fast internet, but I added a 1940 census page for Dennis Lehigh, one of my ancestors, on my laptop, and guess what it did? It did the update right here, not just in Dropbox, but also on my computer, and it would be right here, genealogy, surnames. I go down to Lehigh, and there it is. Okay, it was just added. The nice thing is with Dropbox is I can go ahead and I can see recently changed files. So this is how file syncing works. You notice that I was using one device, and I was able to actually update it, and it will update every device that I have keyed in to Dropbox. Now, some programs have a limit on the number of devices that you can use, and we will cover that as well. Hope everyone gets that. Jeff, did that make sense to you, if I can ask?
Yes, Thomas. So we've got a few questions coming in, though, and
doing stuff. Yeah,
and comments. Becky is saying, let me see, I responded to one person's question. They said, do both computers have to be turned on and connected to the internet for this to be working?
That's a good question. Listen, they don't. In Indianapolis, I can tell you, I don't keep my home computer in Chicago running. So if I'm making changes all weekend in Indianapolis, the minute I flip my Chicago computer on, guess what? It's almost like remember those scales where you have two sides and you look for the balance? Chicago notices, hey, I'm missing some files, or I don't have the latest updated files. Let me go out and get those updates. And so that's what happens. Your computer does not have to be on, but the syncing won't happen fully until you flip that computer on. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, and Judy writes in, she says, I love how I can sync my iMac, my iPad, and my PC laptop. And then Ellen writes in saying, hey, I finally got it after 2 years. Yay. So.
Great, perfect. Okay, then I want to move on. That's an important concept, Jeff, that people understand that what syncing is. Also, I'm going to point out that not every program has syncing, and you have to be careful which ones you use. So let's move on here. You may actually already be using the cloud and may not know it. There are various genealogy-related programs that use cloud computing, but they do so in a way that you're really not aware of it. Here's one. Did you know that the 1940 census images, remember archives.com won the contract probably a year and a half ago, and now you would think that they would store them on the servers at archives.com over in Redwood City, California. No, they actually are storing them on Amazon servers in Northern Virginia. And why? Well, why would a company like archives.com spend millions of dollars setting up servers and hardware, paying the electricity, the air conditioning, etc., when they could contract with a third-party vendor like Amazon, and Amazon only charges them each time someone downloads an image. And basically the charge is nominal. It's pennies. And this way, that is how that works. You may not have known that those 1940 census images are actually not physically on a server in California where you think they might be, or even in Washington, D.C. They are actually hosted by Amazon. Another one, Roots Tech. The Roots Tech website is actually hosted by Amazon as well. If you remember a few weeks ago, it was the end of June. The deadline for speaker proposals for Roots Tech were due on June 30th, and guess what? Remember that storm in Northern Virginia that knocked out all the power? Well, guess what it knocked out? It knocked out the Amazon servers. That's why the Roots Tech server, the website was down for several hours that day, is that their server on the 29th of June was hit by some electrical, etc. problems. They do have backup generators, but of course when you're running on backup, you're not having the full power that you usually do. So I just wanted to illustrate that you may be using Genealogy Cloud Computing and not realizing it. Vendors make it invisible. Let's do an overview of cloud computing programs. The one that we know most are file hosting sites. That is what we're going to focus on in this webinar. We're going to focus on sites where you upload the files that you want and you keep them on a server run by one of these vendors. This is Amazon Cloud Drive, Dropbox, Apple's iCloud. This is Mozy, Stash, I believe, Google Drive from Google, and SugarSync. And also, there's also another division called Online Storage Web Services. Amazon came out with this about 2 years ago. This is more geared towards businesses. I don't know many individuals that use Amazon Web Services for two reasons. They don't synchronize to your desktop necessarily, and number two is they charge every time you pull down a file. So there's no free account on Amazon Web Services. But this is the backbone that runs sites like Roots Tech and archives.com for some of their records. And then finally, we have what I call auxiliary programs that offer specific web-based storage. Ancestry's public member trees. Basically, they give you a way to store information, your own research on their tree. You can't necessarily synchronize this to your desktop. You can with Family Tree Maker. Another one is Evernote. Evernote is a program at evernote.com where you create notebooks and you find things on the web and you cut and paste them. These programs that are auxiliary, the advantage is that a lot of them are free. The disadvantage is you're penned in to using their program and their formats. Excuse me, I couldn't necessarily put up a PDF file on the Ancestry public tree unless they actually had a way for me to upload it there. So you're at the mercy of these programs in terms of what you can and can't upload. What are some of the advantages of cloud computing? Well, this is the number one, instant backup of files. They back up on their own, but also it's nice to have those files somewhere else besides your computer at home. What if all your files for your genealogy research for 20 years were on your laptop and it got stolen or it dropped? Wouldn't it be nice to have those files somewhere else so that you could recover them? To me, that's one of the number one reasons why people do file hosting services and cloud computing. The syncing of files across multiple devices. Again, it's up here on the server. You say, oh, I'm on my laptop in Indianapolis. Let me work, and I pull down a file, I change it, I push it back up into the cloud, and guess what? It actually gets pushed out to my other devices. Access data from anywhere, and I mean anywhere. You could be in an internet cafe in Guadalajara, Mexico, and realize that you need a file. And if you have access to the internet, you have access to that file. This has saved me many times as a speaker. I can't tell you how many times I have lost a flash drive that had my presentation, or I show up and they're using a different system than will work with my computer, etc. As long as I have internet access, even my mobile phone, I can get to my presentation and hook it up to their projector. Then also collaborating with others. You can actually share folders and files with other people. Don't you hate emailing back and forth a big presentation or a big file? I hate it when I have to email a 5 megabyte presentation back and forth. Why can't we all work on the one file in one central location? It makes sense. It saves a lot of time and energy. And finally, one of the big advantages is most of these programs, Jeff, you had said someone asked how much is this cloud. Believe it or not, many of the programs that we're going to talk about, if not all of them, are free. They have some level of free service. You have to be careful because you don't get all the bells and whistles, but the Genealogy Cloud is